Hello everyone and welcome to this Unity tutorial where we are going to be learning how to add wall jumping and wall sliding into your game inside of Unity. You can see here that I have a sample script set up with a player and some objects in the scene that he can jump around on. This player also has a player controller script on him that looks like this. This is the player controller script from my How to Create 2D Movement video. If you have not watched that, I would recommend you go do that. And my How to Flip Your Character video. And if you haven't watched that video, I would recommend you go watch that too. But without further ado, let's create wall sliding and wall jumping. We're going to have to create a few more variables up here. So the first variable that we are going to create is a public boolean named isOnWall. This is just like isOnGround or isGrounded, but it's for the wall. That's why we need our flip, so that we can change if our player is touching the wall or not when he turns left and right. And then we're going to need a public layer mask, and this is going to be our ground or our wall layer. We are also going to need a public game object, and this is going to be our wall check circle. You can see that this is looking a lot like our ground, and that is correct. What we're going to do inside of update right now is we're going to set isOnWall equal to physics 2D dot overlap circle, just like we did for the ground. And then for the parameters for overlap circle, we are going to type in wall check circle dot transform dot position. For the radius, we're going to do something like 0.1 f, and then we're going to do the wall layer for the layer that it's going to check against. You can see here that I have actually spelled this wrong. That's why it's giving me this error. And then we're going to create a method down here that's going to do things like when we wall jump or wall slide. So let's create a private void, and we're going to call this wall slide. And then we're only going to wall slide if we're on the wall. So if is on wall, and then we're going to do the stuff in our code. For this, we're going to need a few more variables. The first one is going to be a public float. It's going to be our wall sliding speed. I'm going to set this to 2 originally. The next variable that we're going to need is going to be a public boolean, and this is going to be isWallSliding. This is just going to be a check to see if we are wall sliding or not. If we are on the wall, we're going to set isWallSliding to be true, and else if we are not on the wall, not isOnWall, we're going to set isWallSliding to be false, because if we're not on the wall, then we're not going to be able to wall slide. After these lines of code, we're going to do an if statement. If is wall sliding. So if we are wall sliding, we're going to want to wall slide. So we're going to set our rigid body 2D dot velocity set to a new vector 2. This vector 2, on the x-axis, we're going to want to move 0 because we're not going to want to move at all when we're wall sliding, and we're going to do our negative wall sliding speed so that we can move downwards when we are wall sliding. And then once we can go up to the update method and type this wall slide in, and then we will be able to wall slide in our game. But we don't want to just wall slide, we want to be able to wall jump too. So let's create a private void wall jump, and then this is going to be our wall jump method. We need to first check for a few things first. We're going to first check if we are wall sliding, because we're not going to be able to wall jump if we can't wall slide, if we are not wall sliding. So if we are wall sliding and we push the jump key, so input.getKeyDown, keycode.space, or whatever your key code is. I'm going to do space for this tutorial right now, just so that we can jump, and that's like the normal jump key. And before we get down to this code down here, we're going to have to create more variables up at the top. The first one is going to be a public vector2, and this is going to be our wall jumping power, just so that we can jump a certain distance every single time. And we're going to set this right now to be a new vector2, and then I'm going to put something like 10 and 10. So when we jump, when we wall jump, we're going to set our rigidbody2d.velocity to that. So our rigidbody2d.velocity equals a new vector2, and then this vector2 is going to be our wall jumping power dot x times our transform dot local scale dot x, and we have to inverse this. And then for the y, we're going to do our wall jumping power dot y. And now this may seem a bit strange, but all this line of code is doing is flipping our character so that he's looking at the wall when he's wall sliding, and then when he jumps, he's going to turn around. So we're also going to have to set isRight to equal to true. And that's why we needed this, our flip character, so that we are able to flip our character once we can do this. And then once we wall jump, we're not going to be able to wall jump again or wall slide again. So up at the top, we're going to have to create another public bool. And this one is going to be called can wall slide. And this can wall slide is going to be set to false when we wall jump. So can wall slide is set to false. But we want to set it to true after this, but not right away. So for that, we're going to need a coroutine. So we're going to do another method. It's going to be a private IEnumerator, and we can name this wait for wall jump. So this is going to be the time to wait after we wall jump. So we're going to do a yield return new wait for seconds, and then in here I'm going to put something like 0.2f. You can put whatever you want. This is how long you will be jumping for before you're able to move your player or wall slide again after you jump. After this is true, we're going to set can wall slide to be equal to true again. And then right after we jump, we're going to start the coroutine. So we can type start coroutine, and we're going to do wait for wall jump. So this is going to start the coroutine of waiting for our wall jump. We can go up to the update method and we can type in our wall jump method just so that we can wall jump, and it's being called every single frame. But before we go inside the Unity editor, we are actually going to have to go up to our update method, and right here where we set our rigid body velocity, we're going to type an if statement. So if we can wall slide, we can also move. But if we can't wall slide, then we're not going to be able to move. So we can just cut and paste our line of code back into this method right here, or this little if statement. So if we are able to wall slide, we can also move, but if we can't, then we're not going to be able to move. Now we can go back inside the Unity editor. Once we're inside the Unity editor, we're going to have to do a few things to the player. We can actually go to the player and then right click, add an empty game object. I'm going to name this the wall check circle. In this wall check circle, if I click W, I'm going to move it to the right of my player. But if your player looks left initially, then you would move it to the left. But right now, I'm just going to keep it right there, so that's where my player's wall will be. So if I go to the player, I'm going to drag my wall check circle on the wall check circle thing right here. And for the wall layer, I have ground checked right now, but I also want to do the wall. So I'm going to go up to the player's wall, click add layer. For the user layer number 7, I'll click say wall. For all of my wall objects, they have wall on them. I'm going to change all the children. And then for my player, scroll down here, and for the wall layer, ground and wall. What this does is that it adds all of these objects right here, these three. They have the wall layer, and if they have the wall layer, that means our player can jump and wall slide and wall jump off of them. Right before we click the play button, we are going to have to go to our player, scroll all the way down, and then for can wall slide, we're going to check this to be true initially, so that when we start the game, the player will be able to move, and then when he touches the wall, the timer will be reset. Now we can click the play button. When I enter play mode, you can see here that I have a little player that moves left and right, and then I can go to these walls, and then I can jump all the way up them and go to the top. And then I can slide, wall slide down, and then I can jump. And this is what we are trying to do. We are trying to make a little wall sliding character, a wall jumping character, and we did. And with that, that is the end of this tutorial. If you like this tutorial, please give our channel a like and a subscribe because it really helps out a ton. Thank you!